Oh, hello everybody. It's great to be here. My name is Liina Adov. I am personal coach in Pipedrive. I have been working in this position for 2 years now. I'm here with Marko, but Marko will have the chance to introduce himself very shortly. Pipedrive. In Pipedrive, we are building customer favorite CRM platform, but today we are here to talk about engineering growth, engineers' growth, and engineering managers' growth through coaching. So a bit of a different topic than the technical side of it. And in our panel today, we have divided it into 3 parts. First of all, we will give a little intro. What is coaching, how it came to be in Pipedrive, and how it looks like. Then we will have a little to see how it could look like in real life. And then we will have a Q&A time. So please add all the questions that pop up to the Slido, because we are very intrigued to know what you would like to know about our experiences with coaching, coaching itself, any other topics that might come to your mind. So this will be the 43 minutes of today. But Marko, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, Marko, I'm engineering lead at Pipedrive. I joined 2015, so it's been 7 years. Pipedrive has been 7 years, very big part of my life. And so what we're going to do today. So first, I think that mental health and soft skills and overall employer happiness are often overlooked in engineering settings. And it could be partly because it has been very masculine environment, so to say, right? And in these environments, weakness is usually stigmatized. Yeah, engineers are mostly logical people, and soft skills, or the soft side, is often neglected. And I'm sure that every one of you has seen or written into performance reviews mentions like, I would like to improve my communication skills or something like this, right? And these skills, these soft skills, are usually the hardest to address because how do you approach that? Like, how do you create an action plan around on improving those? Because they usually contain changes in your personality or in your habits, right? And how to create this roadmap to get there is hard without professional help. So in Pipedrive, historically we have had quite flat engineering organization where every manager has had like 20 or 30 direct reports. And what it means is that there is a lot of room for autonomy. And the engineers are expected to have really great communication skills, and then, that they take initiative and that they give candid feedback to each other and all that, right? Mm-hmm. So we expect that, but reality is often something else, right? So reality is that there are all kinds of disputes. Some of the people are naturally shy. We have many nationalities and many age groups in Pipedrive, so it all adds to the problem, right? So anyway, we saw that to get this communication into better shape, we need to educate ourselves, and we seek for external help. So we looked around and we found this coach, and the first training we did with them was this giving feedback or this deep listening or something like this, that training, and it was received really well. And after the training was done, the coach advertised themselves that they could do like this one-on-one session as well, where we can dissect some kind of personal problems or professional problems, And this was also received really well, and soon the coaching resource became quite valued. And what it meant that the sessions like schedule queued up, and often the time for the coach was offered like 1 month or so ahead. So we already had some experience with internal coaches, because we had this agile coach who helped to facilitate some of the retrospectives, for example, or if the new team was set up, then they helped us to organize, let's say, this, or set up the Scrum or Kanban or whatever, this kind of stuff, right? And so we talked to them, and the idea kind of came to life that, okay, let's try to hire a personal coach to the company. So I had this friend, Jorgen Machi, who was a psychologist at that time, and I offered this role to him, and he agreed. And basically, the rest is history. How many personal coaches we have at the moment?
At the moment, we have 3, including me.
Yeah, and I can say that they are all booked, like, constantly. So
there is, interest.
Okay. So maybe you can give now overview of what kind of approaches we use.
Yeah, and I understand that the personal coach wasn't the first name that was kind of considered for that position.
Yeah, one of the first names was happiness engineer.
Yes, so. But in the end it was personal coach. But personal coaching in Pipedrive, as mentioned, that it kind of grew out from a need. So we have seen that the topics that we address as coaches with Pipedrivers can be quite different. We are along with professional growth topics, not on the technical side there, but more on the soft skill side, or even thinking along how to grow the career and who could help there and so on. So that's one side of it where we focus. One side is personal growth topics, which could also be like time management or assertiveness or whatever it is that the person needs and sees that it would help them in their growth. And then because all the personal coaches that we have background in psychology, we are also there to think along on mental wellness. It can be connected to burnout, but also to boredom on the other hand, whatever it might be. For example, as well in the beginning of COVID, working remotely and how that affects us and finding that rhythm. So the topics for the coaching can be very different. And our idea has always been there to support professional growth and to support the performance, and along the way to take away the obstacles that might be there for that person to be the best them in that moment. But this brings us to our example today. Marko, would you say what were the things that brought you to coaching?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, as a manager and as a human being, I think all of us want to be better at what we do, right? And or at least get into this neutral state, or let's say natural state, when you don't have to, where you're not stressed, or where everything comes kind of like natural for you. So what I want, like how to get better, one of the things that I did was start asking feedback about myself, right? And the feedback contained usually like these positive things that, okay, you're very straightforward and no bullshit guy, and you get things done and all that, right? But then there were these kind of things also that you're sometimes too straightforward, and this can seem too aggressive for some people, right? So I wanted to know more, like what was behind it, and I asked from the people who gave this feedback to give some examples, like where I was too aggressive in your mind, right? And actually, this feedback, what I got from there, created some kind of like mindfulness shift in me. So all of those examples that were given were the situations where I myself felt that I can't do far. So I realized that my actions and outbursts there, on top of hurting others, maybe also make me miserable as well. And I would sometimes, after these kind of meetings, which were really stressful and I acted out, I found that my whole day was kind of like ruined afterwards. So it really limited my ability to function for the whole day. So I started wondering, like, why do I act this way and undermine myself this way, right? And do these situations really have to influence me that much, right? And I also realized that these kind of incidents are the main contributors to stress that I feel and unhappiness at work as well, right? So I asked Jorgen about this, described him my problem and said, okay, like, what should I do? He basically recognized me for taking this first step to seek help, right? But we also kind of understood that we know each other that well, that our discussions around it will be kind of on a meta level. So we tried it one time, right? But then it usually ended up like speaking about video games or what's happening at home or this kind of like joking around. And I felt that we're not taking this seriously. So he basically said that maybe Liina can take over, and because we didn't know each other that well, and here we are, basically.
Here we are, yeah. And just to kind of share a bit of the coaching side, so to demystify some parts of it maybe, I think it's very valuable what you brought out as well, that for yourself there was a pre-story to this before the coaching, that you noticed in some situations, I don't react the way that I would like to, I don't feel the way that I like to, I see that there is more stress than there maybe has to be in those situations. And it is a question, okay, how can I now go from here? What could help me? And having that neutral side, somebody neutral there who can kind of think along and see, okay, how can I go through these situations? How can I be more aware and so on, can be very valuable. And as you mentioned, when there is somebody who doesn't, or we don't know them, it is a bit of a different conversation than when it's our friend there. And when we kind of start working in coaching, then there are those questions for us that, okay, the person who comes to us right now, I'm here with Marko, it might be somebody else. What is it that they are, what is their obstacle at this time? What they would like to achieve, where would they like to see themselves, or where would they like to get from there? And then to think along, what kind of information do we need more, or what can we do to make sense of the situation, and then find the next steps from there. And as we were kind of, we have the example with Marko today, also the question, okay, there were those situations, you got some feedback, you got some information already, but to understand a bit better what is going on for yourself in those situations, where you notice the change in the mood, or that you see that it's more stressful in those situations. So the goal kind of in collaboration would be to move towards your goal in this example, but or other coaches.
Just one thing between is that we actually have this kind of like coaching relationship going on, and before we came here, we had already this one session where I described it, right? And so this is not the kind of like the first time, but it's a kind of like a second time, so to say, right?
Yeah, it's a kind of a continue.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Perfect, exactly. And from the first time, we kind of discussed, okay, how can we approach this topic and what could be useful? And we thought about a kind of table to collect some information.
Oh, yeah, the anger diary.
Yes, anger diary kind of format. We have one slide as well, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, yes. Perfect. So what was proposed in that moment was that, okay, we need a bit more information of those situations that Marko was mentioning and the feedback that he got. What is the situation? What is happening there for Marko himself? And also, like, what do you do in those moments? So this was proposed to gather a bit more information. So when we get together, as here today, we can kind of go through those and see what could be those next steps from there. I think we have another slide. Just yes. So we can leave this because we will be going through those steps. So, but Marko, tell me a bit about some situations that you noticed that you would like to bring to the table.
I marked them down, basically, and I filled the table into my secretary. But first I would like to say that after starting already marking down those incidents, I basically felt like a shift in my kind of like consciousness or mind as well, that, okay, maybe if I got angry sometimes, then I would already recognize that and not, act out on the same time. So I actually...
So I understand that kind of noticing those situations, having that attention on them changed already the approach, yeah?
Yes. So situations. So I had the situation where we were with a couple of PMs and one senior developer, and product managers tried to agree on a solution which from my perspective was utterly stupid and would induce much pain on the developers, like technical debt and all that, right? And there was the senior developer as well, and for assessing the solution, and he just nodded along, like, okay, yeah, let's do this and all that, right? So what were my thoughts? So my thoughts were that, does this developer, does he not understand what's going on here, right? Why does not he intervene? Is he even up to his task to assessing this, right? And then I felt that, okay, or thought or felt that I need to do something to avert this.
The thought of, I need to do something. Yeah. And do you understand correctly that in that moment you kind of had that notion in mind, he should intervene, in your own mind that, okay, he should say something in this moment. Yeah, and as you mentioned that you saw that would be something that you would do. How did you feel in that moment?
Yeah, trying to describe the feelings. So I felt agitated, like adrenaline was kind of starting rushing through me. I felt helpless a bit because I thought that, okay, where are they going with this? I saw that they are going into the train wreck, right? So I think I can describe my feelings like this.
Yeah, frustrated.
Okay.
And I understand that you mentioned next to the feelings already that you already noticed as well that you had expectation where this might take us, even before it kind of went there. Yeah.
Yeah, I expected more from the developer.
Okay. Okay. And what did you do in that moment?
So, behavior. So, first I kind of waited. I looked back at it, how I acted, right? So I waited, and then listened until the basically cork came off. And what came out from my mouth was that, I don't know what the tone was. I'm sure that it was quite agitated, this is not going to happen, not on my watch. I've not heard anything this stupid for a long time. And Mr. Developer, I'm not naming any names, why aren't you saying something and just taking it like a good boy you are? This is a perfect example where you don't take ownership and why you don't get promoted.
So as you mentioned that in that moment, kind of in your mind, you already saw where it might take you. You mentioned that it was like a train wreck kind of waiting to happen. It was building up in that moment because where are we going? Why we are not saying anything? So it was building up in yourself. And in that moment when you kind of shared that it wasn't just for one moment, it was the whole story that was for you in that moment. The whole story of, okay, where the train wreck might get. Okay. And that kind of built up to that, as you mentioned, the cork kind of flew off or something similar. Okay.
So the other thing as well, or I marked two of those.
But maybe we can check this situation a bit kind of more. Because I was curious that you mentioned that you already saw some change for yourself when you started paying attention or thinking about these different steps. Looking back at that situation, how would you interpret that situation differently?
So maybe the developer was just listening, instead of nodding, maybe he gathered the information, right? So if I should have been more objective in that sense, not just, thinking in my head that, okay, this guy is like, he's clueless, like, he just lets it happen, right, in that sense. So maybe he was just gathering information, right? Maybe the product managers, maybe they were just brainstorming, but I got this feeling that, okay, this is a done deal already, right?
Okay, yeah. So in that moment, your mind kind of went quite far, but now thinking back at that situation, you have like, okay, maybe he was listening, maybe it was a different situation. How do you think you would have felt in that moment when that would have been your thought that, okay, he's just listening right now. He's kind of trying to understand before answering.
So I don't think that I would boil over. I would be more calm, and maybe I would even gather more information out from the meeting, right?
Oh, what do you mean by that last part, that you would gather more information?
I mean, if you already, you get emotional about the topic, right, and you start running in your head about like, okay, this is bullshit, like it shouldn't happen, right? Then you're not listening anymore what the people are discussing in that room, right? So everything is kind of like against your thoughts in that sense.
Okay, so paying attention in the moment, and when we have that train of thought going in our minds, we kind of lose a bit, because we are thinking kind of those thoughts that are in our minds, as you said, like, okay, where this will get us, or something else, yeah. But looking back at the situation, is there also, yeah?
It really helps if I just forget about where we are.
That's a good hint,
Yeah.
that there is nothing there, just as, yeah. But looking back at the situation, is there anything that you could have done kind of beforehand, setting your mind to the meeting? Or was there anything that you see could have changed how this situation went?
I think that this particular meeting, it was quite hard to predict like what's going to happen there. But overall, I think that if I already understand that I'm going into a stressful situation, I could kind of like tune myself or prepare for that. And that's that, landing or downing myself or getting into the moment and understanding that, okay, this just, be observative, be curious, don't, get attached, don't emotionally attached in that sense. Right? These are just people trying to find the best solution. It's not just work, but it's nothing to get anxious about.
So the mindset before of how I go, yeah. You mentioned like calming yourself or bringing down yourself. How do you do it usually when you have that need?
I don't know, like maybe just taking a moment for yourself, like just getting into the moment, like trying to clear your mind, like a bit small meditation or something, or breathing exercise, or I don't know.
Where have you taken meditation with you? Have you had some practice with it? You mentioned meditation.
Yeah, I've tried meditation.
Okay. Do you have some practice behind to use for yourself with the breathing exercises or meditation?
No, I'm usually just doing it just to relax in that sense, like trying to empty my mind. Not think about anything, just to be focus on breathing and just letting go, like all of the thoughts and all this kind of technique.
Yeah, it's cool. And you mentioned also curiosity that you would take with you. How does the curiosity look like, or how do you take that curiosity with you to that moment?
Just like wondering, thinking along, like wondering like where do they get this information, like what is happening in their head maybe, or
Asking questions from yourself. I understand, like, okay, what is it that they are telling me?
Or asking questions from them.
Oh, yeah. Like, outside curiosity as well, not just inside. Yeah. Okay, cool. Anything that you see when we think about this situation where you were in that meeting, and you mentioned that this was not something that you saw beforehand, might be stressful, so the preparation maybe was different. But in that situation itself, this conversation is going on. You see, okay, I'm not sure where this is taking us. I think it's a train wreck. What could you have done in that situation to help yourself?
So that is something that I'm not sure, because I would like to understand why I act this way. So where, like if I think about it like scientifically, there is some kind of pathway in my brain that basically, goes off. So it is, and the fuse there is so short that I can't like catch it before. So I would like to understand where that comes from, like because it seems like something from maybe from childhood or whatever, right? So we don't have to go there into childhood or start. I might start crying. I don't know. So let's not go there currently, but I would still like to understand maybe on some other session and go there.
Yeah, and to understand like where this, what might be the history with this kind of situation for yourself, to understand, okay, what is it that happens so quickly with me in those moments that I don't even catch it? You mentioned that it's so quick that before I even notice, I might be already in that point where I agitated. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a good question that, okay, where we have kind of taken some of those patterns. You mentioned that in that moment that the story that went on in your mind, that it came quite quickly and that you kind of went with the train of thought. Did you notice in that moment that, oh, now I'm kind of...
No, I don't think that I was conscious at all at that point.
Yeah. So the kind of being conscious in that moment might be something that brings more light.
Yep.
Okay. Looking at our time, you mentioned that you had another situation, but I'm a bit hesitant right now with time, if we have time to kind of go through it. Is it longer?
We can try it. It's kind of similar thing, but a bit different as well. So there was this new product line review, right? And this product launch was late and postponed for multiple times already because of like legal and security reasons and all that, right? And one of the reviewer was asking questions like, why are you late again? And you promised these new deadlines, like how can you be really sure that it will be met this time, right? And all that. So what was going on in my head there was, we all know that why it's late. Like why the heck are they nagging again, right?
They're nagging.
So why are they asking this, right? And I saw like their like unhappy faces and all that, and then I felt that I should protect the team or kind of like even retaliate there. And it happened quite fast. I wasn't conscious at that point, like what I was saying. All right, so suddenly blurted out, like, what is your problem? Like, why the F are you on our ass again, right? And we all know what the problems are, like, have you not been listening, and so on. And after that, basically, the productive meeting was over. So it was, just silence, right? And I felt really bad about this, and basically I just said, okay, I'm just gonna go and wind off somewhere.
But you mentioned there that you didn't notice those thoughts in the moment.
No.
But when did you notice them?
After when I opened the anger diary and started to, retrospectively look at that.
Okay, and in that moment you saw that, okay, we know that there was that expectation, we know why this is delayed, why we are talking about this, and as you mentioned, the feel to protect the team. So I will step up, I will kind of try to protect our team from these questions. Yeah. And you mentioned that how that came out, that you were not happy with that. Looking back, what would you change or...
I don't know. I was thinking about it like the person was just doing their job. Maybe they were following their script. Maybe they just had these questions beforehand already thought out. Like, so they were actually maybe trying to help us just to figure out, do we have an action plan right now, or what brings us the confidence that we can actually deliver now and all that, right? So just to be on the same side, like.
Okay, so maybe they were trying to think along and help along to find those next steps or figure it out, yeah. If that would have been your thought in that moment, how would you have felt?
I would, it would be a really happy meeting in that sense, right?
Happy meeting in that moment, yeah. Okay. Do you see that in that second situation, is there a place where to use that curiosity that you mentioned before?
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe. To ask a question from yourself or others? Yeah. Maybe. We don't know right now. We have to test it. Okay. But I see that we have some minutes left to leave some time for questions as well. From right now, this discussion, what is it that you will take with you?
So it's good how you basically, I understand what you're doing basically. You tell me, like you ask questions like, what would you do differently? And you basically make me think along so I'm more invested in that, right? So the solutions that I told you, you agreed with those. And then now because I basically proposed those, I'm more invested now, right? Yeah?
They are your solutions.
Okay.
They're not mine.
So yeah, one of the things is that before stressful meetings, at least what I kind of remembered currently, is that I'm going to prepare myself, bring the mindfulness in it before, then curiosity. Right? So these are, I think, the main things.
Okay. Do you have an idea how you would bring yourself into the moment before the meeting?
Maybe set a reminder before 5 minutes before. Good idea?
It was yours, so it's the best, I would say,
Okay.
to test it out. But does it sound realistic to have that 5 minutes before the meeting, to have that time to bring yourself into the moment?
I can actually put some kind of sticker on top of my monitor, like be mindful or something.
Yeah.
And people would look like I'm crazy, right? In the office, like mindful. MF, yeah.
I think mindfulness word is quite known right now, so yeah. But the reminder that would be there, so you can see it physically, would be something that helps to bring back your own attention to it as well. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. I'm very excited to hear how those experiments go for yourself for over the
Next time, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. But we have some time for questions and hopefully answers. We'll see if we have answers for those questions.
Hi. Yes, thank you very much for your insightful conversation. It actually has sparked quite a few questions. So thank you very much. We will go through them right now. So the most upvoted question that we've got was, did the coaches bring out issues in the company as well? How did the management react to it?
That have we brought things up besides individual level? From time to time, we are approached. Coaching in Pipedrive is confidential. That is one of the important parts of it. So whatever we discuss with whomever we meet, we don't share inside of the company or outside of the company. It stays with us.
But we just did.
Yeah. Today, we had the agreement from Marko and Liina to do it here today in this format. But otherwise, it stays with us. From time to time, people have asked us, our people and culture team, who is also there to support Pipedrivers, have asked us, is there any topics that we could address? And from time to time, we do bring out some of the things that we see, because we are not doing only one-on-one coachings, we also do trainings, and there are some questions from the people that we are working with pop up. And when we are in the situation of some changes in the world or society, for example, in the beginning of COVID, we did address those questions as well together with people and culture team to really think, okay, how can we support the people in Pipedrive?
All right. The next question is, how much feedback do coaches give to managers about sessions with developers? Okay, I guess we just covered it. There was another question
Yes,
there.
but we do have that the coachee themselves, Marko can share what he got from it always with
Sure.
the manager and somebody else. So it is up for the people themselves to see what is valuable for them to share with their teams. Maybe there is something, maybe they have like a goal and the team can help them, so it's very valuable. But from our side, none of the information moves to anybody else.
How do you allocate time for coaching for engineers? How much time do they get for these coaching sessions?
It is free. So it's up to the collaboration question, what is needed. At times it might be that there is something time limited and it might be over shorter time. There might be something that is like long-term goal and then it might mean that we are working together for 6 months or longer. It depends on the topic, it depends on the need at the time. But we are trying to be mindful of this, kind of keeping the space for other pipe drivers as well. Then,
Okay. I don't know now if you can answer this question, but let's try. What are the most frequent problems or questions discussed at the coaching sessions? Maybe if you could generalize it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the topics, one of the approaches, as Marko mentioned here as well, that I got feedback from my team members, and there were some parts, some things I understand what I can do, and then some parts that were a bit more general, and I'm not really quite sure how to approach, for example, the feedback. So it's like a growth topic that people have from the feedback, but that's okay, I should be better in presenting or communication, but I'm not sure how to start tackling this, is one of the topics. For sure. And there are topics of kind of, I would say, in broad strokes of personal growth and mental well-being in between, like time management or finding the balance for myself that I can sustainably do my work, even I'm very passionate, but I need to find the time to kind of ease out as well. Yeah. So those were some that popped up to my mind right now when I was kind of generalizing or thinking very
All right.
broadly.
The other question was, how does coaching relate to the regular check-in one-on-one with line manager? Does it reduce the load of the manager? Does it change the topics of one-on-one?
Yeah, it is a good question for Marko as well. If Marko maybe has noticed from his own kind of managerial side from it, I can say from my coaching side that in many cases there are sometimes topics and people say my manager kind of suggested that there is this resource to use and they kind of come to us.
So,
at times.
So one of the things is, as I mentioned, that because the flat organization there is like 20 to 30 reports, right? On one and coach is a really good like supportive role in there. So maybe our focus will be more on the technical, let's say, things with engineering manager, right, and the personal growth. And it is that we are not really equipped for that in that sense that we don't have the skill set.
So it's kind of separated, the more personal growth side and more technical side, something like this.
Yes. It might be, and I think it's like complementary.
Okay.
So like, there is one side I can talk with my manager, he knows or she knows better, and then there is the other side that the personal coach or agile coach might know better, meaning like the team building and the mission framework that we have. So I would say that it is complementary. And at times in coaching as well, there are some questions that I say, okay, this might be something good to discuss with your manager because it's something, information or some knowledge that most probably a manager can address.
And also it's quite hard to, if you have this kind of like reporting chain, so to say, sometimes it's hard to stay neutral. They are quite neutral in that sense, like I might have conflicting interests there and will start giving advice that is, maybe I have my own agenda behind it, right?
Yeah, we have the privilege to be more on at least outside of the team, most probably, so a bit neutral side, yeah.
How many people worked at Pipedrive at the moment when you felt that personal coaching was needed?
That is a question for bike drivers that we haven't asked. How many of them have felt that they could use it? That we don't know. We do gather statistics for ourselves to see how many people have turned to us, but because Pipedrive is growing as well, it's quite tricky to bring out that percentage there. It has been like, I would say right now, to be conservative, between 35% and 45% still, because there is change of size in Pipedrive and so on. And also in the blog post that we shared in Digit about the same topic, we also shared a bit of that.
Okay, so we can read the blog post later as well to get some more insight into this. People are wondering, are you hiring more coaches? How does the process go? What's required from a person who's applying for a role of the coach?
Right now we are not. We hope to in the future for sure. And it has been a discussion because right now, as I mentioned, all the personal coaches have background in psychology, and we have seen how valuable it is because the topics we are working with people, so those topics pop up. And for sure, working with people, that there would be some experience with working with people and some framework for it. It might be from coaching side, it might be from psychologist side, but I think that that's very valuable for sure. And there are so many things that you can learn in Pipedrive during this process as well.
Great. How many coaches do you have right now? Are they responsible for separate teams or roles, or is there any separation in general?
We have 3 personal coaches, and they are available for our bike drivers, so we don't have the separation. People can choose which personal coach they want to approach. Maybe they have seen us in trainings or somewhere else. They have felt that, okay, this person seems like somebody I would feel comfortable talking to. Or just based on our background as well, because we have all a bit of a different background. So that might be one way how to choose the coach. And then we have also right now 2.5 agile coaches, or 3 to say, and 1 is joining quite soon. And they are also kind of for all bike drivers, but mostly working with team or team leads.
Mm-hmm. Now there is a question which sounds like, does the initiative to set up a coaching session come from the coach or from the coachee, which I guess you have covered a little bit. But a question related to that, is the coaching relationship more of a process or more of a project?
More of a process or
more of a project?
I would say it's somewhere in between, because in the beginning there is a bit of a project, kind of, okay, what is the situation right now? What is my goal? Where I would like to move, or what change I would like to see? Because that's also quite often a question. How do I know that this coaching is effective? Is the question, did it help me with the goal that I had? That I can ask from Marko at one point, if it helped. But then inside of that, it is a process of where we see, okay, where are we moving? How is it going? What kind of support is needed?
Yeah, and you share that sometimes it takes longer if okay.
Exactly, and sometimes it might be 1-2 meetings, sometimes, more, so it's very,
Are you solving employees' personal problems as well in these coaching sessions?
That's the very good part of being a coach and a psychologist with my background, that we don't solve the problems, we are helping the person to solve their own topics.
That's a very good summary of it, yeah. There is one, not of a question, but more of a compliment addressed to Marko, that you are so brave and people are thanking you for doing it today at the stage. So thank you, Marko.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have nothing to hide.
That's
I mean,
great.
that's the thing what I said, that this kind of like problems are observed as weaknesses, and it is stigmatized. But actually, if you stay with that problem, then you know, it can get worse, and you can never get rid of it. And if you really want to get rid of that or part of you, if you don't like, then ask for external help. I mean, that's always the way to go.
Great. We have to wrap up our session, so if there is anything you wanted maybe to say at the summary of it, some important points at the end.
I am also, along with others, thank you, Marko, for being with me here without the confidentiality.
Enough of that.
Yes. And if you have any questions, please step up to us, and we are happy to have a chat. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
And see you around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.